You know the feeling, right? You walk through the door, maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes later than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you just got off a really difficult video call and your shoulders are all tense and your dog is just waiting.
Oh, not just waiting.
Staring. Exactly. They tilt their head, they might narrow their eyes, and they hit you with that specific heavy sigh. That look that just screams, I expected better of you.
It absolutely feels like you've committed some kind of moral failing, doesn't it? It just triggers this dread that they're secretly keeping a running tally of your shortcomings.
Yeah.
And that feeling, that's really the core question of this deep dive. Do dogs judge us the way humans judge each other? Are they, evaluating our character?
That is the mission.
Yeah.
And we've pulled together some sources that suggest the answer is, well, it's incredibly nuanced. It's much more interesting than a simple yes or no.
Exactly. Our sources kind of define the answer as this blend of no, there's no moral judgment, but yes, there is an incredibly astute assessment happening. So dogs don't have our abstract philosophical frameworks of right and wrong, but they are absolutely wired to assess the world based on safety, connection, and predictability.
So what we're perceiving as judgment is really, it's their way of navigating our emotional state and, I guess, evaluating how reliable we are.
Precisely. They're responding to patterns, not philosophy. It's pragmatic.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with the bedrock of the relationship, the dog as an emotional translator. How do they know what's going on with us the second we walk in?
Well, they're absolute masters of it. I mean, their emotional intelligence far exceeds our own ability to pick up on these subtle shifts. You can think of them as reading a constantly updating biography of your inner state.
What are the specific chapters they're reading then? What are the key cues?
It's a whole sensory cocktail. So they notice the rigidity in your posture, that slight rounding of the shoulders or, the tightening in your neck.
Right.
They analyze your eye contact. If you normally meet their gaze and all of a sudden you're avoiding it, that's a huge red flag for them.
And I've heard scent is a big one.
Oh, it's the most crucial element. Our chemical profile changes instantly based on stress or joy. A spike in cortisol is like a flashing neon sign to a dog.
So if I race home from work, stressed because I'm late for their walk and I'm, frantically throwing my keys down, my dog isn't thinking, she is so irresponsible.
No, not at all.
They're just reading the high cortisol and the jerky movements.
Precisely. They're reading the disruption of the normal pattern and reacting to your anxious vibes. Their whole response is shaped by their instinct for survival, which is rooted in this co-evolutionary bond we have with them.
They need us to be stable.
They need us to be stable leaders. And when they see instability, their own anxiety starts to go up.
So let's take that a step further. What about when a dog reacts negatively to, say, a new house guest? We always interpret that as the dog judging their personality.
Right, like, my dog is a great judge of character. But really, the dog doesn't care about the person's intentions or their moral compass.
So what are they reacting to?
An unfamiliar scent, a sudden sharp tone of voice, a stiff posture. They're just translating all these unfamiliar signals into a perceived threat level. They're emotional translators, not critics. And they're incredible mirrors.
What do you mean by mirrors?
If you bring a nervous, high-energy date home and you're subtly stressed about it, the dog is primarily reacting to the tension in your hand on the leash, not the date's shoes.
Got it. Okay, so if they're this good at reading our immediate mood, how far does that assessment go? I mean, into our competence and reliability. This is where the science gets really interesting.
Yes, this is where we move from just emotional reading to cognitive assessment. Research into canine cognition gives us really strong evidence that they are assessing our usefulness and our efficiency.
So let's dive into that notable study, the one with the helpful and hindering actors. How was that set up? What did it actually prove?
Yeah, this experiment was fascinating. The dogs basically observed a human actor struggling with a task, specifically trying to open a tightly sealed container.
Okay, so just struggling with it.
Struggling. And then they watched two other actors intervene. One actor immediately jumps in to help the person open it. That's the helpful one.
Right.
The second actor actively hinders the person, maybe by closing the container again or pushing the helper's hand away.
So the dogs are just watching this whole little social drama play out.
Exactly. And afterward, the dogs showed a very clear preference for the helpful individual. When that person later offered them food or, some interaction, they'd approach the helper more quickly.
But wait, if they prefer the person who is helpful, isn't that just another way of saying they prefer competence? That sounds awfully close to judgment to me, even if We call it pragmatic.
That is a great question, and it gets to the crucial distinction here between a human and canine motivation. For the dog, the motivation isn't, this person is morally superior.
What is it then?
The motivation is, this person is more likely to provide a positive outcome for me. They're assessing reliability.
Ah, so it's pure self-interest rooted in survival.
Exactly, and other studies back this up. When dogs watch two people trying to solve a puzzle, they quickly learn to prefer the human who solves it efficiently and gives the reward.
Even if the other person was trying just as hard.
Even if they were trying just as hard, they're not judging the unsuccessful person's intentions. They're judging the outcomes. They're choosing the best resource provider, the most effective guide.
They're choosing the best leader. And this reliance on consistency is key to their daily happiness too, isn't it? Especially with resources.
Absolutely. Just think about your routine. If you're inconsistent with walks or dinner, the dog becomes stressed. Inconsistency is a massive source of anxiety for dogs.
Tell me more about that, because we all do it. We might reward a behavior one day, like letting them jump up when we're excited, and then scold that exact same behavior the next day when we're tired.
And that mixed message creates a state of confusion. It doesn't create a guilty conscience in the dog. The dog isn't thinking, oh, I should have known better. They're thinking, I cannot predict the consequences of my actions.
And that triggers stress and avoidance.
It's just behavioral adaptation driven by anxiety, not a response to a moral judgment. Dogs thrive on crystal-clear routine.
And what about that leadership vacuum we talked about? When we hesitate, like on a walk, deciding which way to go.
Hesitation is uncertainty, and uncertainty signals a lack of leadership to them. They are wired to follow confident, clear cues. If you pause too long or stand around looking unsure, their instinct might just kick in.
And they take over.
Either they back away, or, especially in more assertive breeds, they try to take control of themselves by pulling you in a direction they think is safer or more interesting.
We can actually see this at home, can't we? With the food test.
Yes. This is a simple one. If you have two people in the house, and one person consistently delivers the high-value stuff, the chew toys, the good treats, and the other is just offering boring kibble or yelling, the dog will naturally gravitate to the generous one.
It's a primal, simple calculation. Reliable provider equals safety.
Precisely. And that calculation extends to how they react to our intense emotions. Let's talk about emotional volatility. When we yell at a dog, we think we're correcting them.
But what does it actually translate to for them?
It translates to threat. They associate the volume, the high energy, the change in your voice with danger. Their reaction is self-protection. They cringe, they hide, they shut down.
So you're just eroding trust.
You're just creating stress and eroding the trust they need to see you as a reliable guide. Unfair punishment just breeds confusion and anxiety, not morality.
But the complete opposite happens when we express sadness.
That's the beautiful paradox of it all. Sadness draws them in. Dogs respond with this profound empathy. Studies have shown that when a dog hears a human crying, they are far more likely to approach and try to comfort that person.
They're not critiquing why you're crying.
Not at all. They sense the distress, and they're wired to affiliate and soothe. Their loyalty actually deepens in those moments of vulnerability.
That brings us back to that first scenario, walking in the door and feeling judged. Beyond our immediate mood, how do other things, like a dog's breed or their personal history, change what they're assessing?
Right, because our dogs are the ultimate experts in nonverbal communication, and our guilt throws their system off. When we feel guilty for being late, we send all these strange signals, an apologetic tone. We avert our gaze. The dog is just reacting to the fact that you, the usually stable provider, suddenly look and smell weird.
They're reacting to this strange demeanor, not the clock. Let's talk about breed influence, because you're right, some dogs absolutely seem more scrutinizing than others.
Oh, definitely. And this is where their history really dictates their perceived level of judgment. Take herding breeds like Border Collies or Australian Shepherds.
Go.
They are genetically hardwired to observe, track, and control movement. Their entire evolutionary success depended on being hyper-vigilant about where every sheep and every human is going.
So their intense stare isn't a critique, it's just them waiting for a job.
Exactly. They're judging movement patterns and waiting for a command. That constant scrutiny can feel like you're under a microscope, but it's just their work ethic. Now, contrast that with, say, a husky or an Akita.
The more independent breeds, they often seem aloof.
Because they were bred to work independently, sometimes miles away from their owner, making their own complex decisions. So they're preoccupied with the utility of your actions. If your call to come is inconsistent, their assessment is simple. Does this benefit me?
And if the answer is no, they seem dismissive.
But they're just making an independent judgment call based on necessity.
And then you have the really complex filter of a rescue dog, especially one with a traumatic past.
A dog's unique history is arguably the most powerful filter they have. If a rescue dog was once punished for approaching food, they may assess any hand coming near their bowl as a threat, no matter how loving you are now.
So they're judging the action based on a negative past association, not on your current morality.
Right. If you raise your hand quickly, their flinch is about anticipating a threat from their past, not about judging you as a bad person now. Their history is just so vital.
So if we want to build that trust and be seen as that competent, reliable guide they need, what practical things should we be doing with our own body language?
Focus on projecting a calm, assertive stability. Stand tall with relaxed shoulders. Use smooth, deliberate movements, and crucially, be predictable. If the dog knows the walk starts at 6, be ready at 6. That consistency builds unwavering confidence in your leadership.
This has really dismantled the whole idea of canine moral judgment for me. We circle back to that core distinction. Dogs don't critique our life choices or our philosophical positions. They observe, they react, and they adapt based on survival, emotional intelligence, and social bonds.
We really need to retire the term judgment and embrace something like astute observation. They're brilliant, four-legged biographers, constantly reading the story of our lives through our scent, our energy, our actions. They just meet us exactly where we are.
And that depth of attentive connection is truly remarkable.
It is. The fact that they are constantly assessing us, monitoring our emotional state, is what allows them to love us so perfectly and completely. They don't need explanations or long apologies. They feel our pain, they celebrate our joy, and they're always ready for the next clear command. That deep loyalty, it transcends any simple idea of judgment.
Yeah.
I think the real takeaway is realizing the comfort in being so completely and thoroughly understood by another being without ever having to justify yourself. What stands out to you about that kind of silent acceptance?